Okay, good day. Now we are going to learn solving quadratic equation by using completing the square method. So quadratic equation that cannot be easily solved by factoring can be solved by using completing the square method. So in this method, a perfect square trinomial or PST must be produced. A PST is a trinomial that can be expressed as a square of a binomial. For example, x squared plus 4x plus 4 is equal to the square of x plus 2. X squared minus 6x plus 9 is equal to the square of x minus 3. Note that these quadratic trinomials are of the form ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, where a is equal to 1. Moreover, the constant term in every PST of this form is the square of 1/2 of the coefficient of the linear term or the second term. Focus on the PST on the given examples. What do you think is done with B to get C? Right. We divide B by 2 and then square. Or you can use the formula C is equal to the square of B over 2. Now let us have our first activity. Determine what must be added to make each of the following a PST. Express each as a square of a binomial. You are given a minute to answer. Okay, time's up. Let us check your answer. Did you get all the answers correctly? Very good. Now let's proceed. The following are the steps in solving quadratic equation by completing the squares. So number 1, transpose all terms involving the variable to the left side and the constant term to the right side of the equation. Number 2, divide all terms of the equation by a to make the coefficient of x squared equal to 1 if necessary. Number 3, add the square of 1/2 of the coefficient of x to both sides of the equation, making the left side a PST. 4, express the left side of the equation as a square of a binomial. 5, take the square roots of both sides, writing the double sign before the square root of the number. Then last, solve the resulting linear equation and check. Let us take a look at these examples. Solve the quadratic equation 2x squared is equal to 16x plus 18 by completing the square. So first, we need to divide all the terms by the coefficient of x squared. So we are going to divide all terms by 2. Therefore, we have x squared is equal to 8x plus 9. Then, we isolate 9, the constant term, to the right side, transposing 8x to the left side. Then we are going to turn x squared minus 8x as a PST. So to do that, we need to add on the both side the square of 1/2 of b. So therefore, we are going to add both sides by 16. Since the left side is already a PST, we can now turn it as a square of a binomial, while simplifying the right, of course. The next is to take the square roots of both sides. Therefore, we have x minus 4 is equal to plus n minus 5. Then we transpose negative 4 to the right side. Therefore, we have the linear equation x is equal to 4 plus and minus 5. So solving for the linear equation, therefore, we have the first value of x, which is 9, while the second value of x is equal to -1. Take note that we need to check the values that we have solved to determine whether they are real solutions or not. So in checking, we need to use the original equation. So if x is equal to 9, we substitute 9 to the x's on the original equation. Therefore, we have 162 is equal to 162. Same is true if we are going to use 1 as a value for x. So therefore, 2 is equal to 2. Since the equation is true when x is equal to 9 and x is equal to -1, then we say that they are real roots. Example number 2. Solve the quadratic equation 2x squared plus 8x minus 10 is equal to 0 by completing the square. So we need to make the value of a equal to 1. That is why we need to divide all the terms by 2. Therefore, we have x squared plus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0. Then we transpose -5 to the other side, giving us x squared plus 4x is equal to 5. Next is for us to make x squared plus 4x a perfect square trinomial. So we get the square of 1/2 of b. So 1/2 of b is 2. 2 square is 4. So we are going to add 4 to both sides of the equation. Then after that, we simplify the right side while turning x squared plus 4x plus 4 as a square of a binomial. Then we take the square root, giving us x plus 2 is equal to plus and minus 3. Transpose +2 to the other side. Then we solve for the value of x. So the first value of x is 1, while the second value of x is -5. By checking, we can determine that 1 and -5 are real roots. Example number 3. X squared minus 6x minus 41 is equal to 0. Since a is already 1, we can now proceed to the next step, that is to isolate -41, the constant term, to the other side of the equation. So we transpose -41, it becomes +41 to the right. Then we turn x squared minus 6x as a PST by adding a constant term to both the left and the right side. So to get the constant term, we need to divide -6 by 2. So you have -3. Then square -3, you have +9. So we are going to add +9 to both sides of the equation. We simplify the right side, so 41 plus 9 is 50. Then we turn x squared minus 6x plus 9 as a square of a binomial, which is x squared minus 3 squared. Then we take the square root of both sides, giving us the equation x minus 3 is equal to plus and minus square root of 50. We transpose -3, so from -3 it becomes +3. So therefore, we have the two values for x. X of 1 is equal to 3 plus the square root of 50, while x of 2 is equal to 3 minus the square root of 50. As a rule, the constant term must be written before the radical number. Okay, so by checking, we can determine that both 3 plus the square root of 50 and 3 minus the square root of 50 are real roots. Let us watch this clip for more examples.
Okay, so now we are going to solve for x squared minus 8x minus 1 is equal to 0 by using completing the square method. So, ang unang step na gagawin natin is to isolate the constant term to only one side of the equation. So, big sabihin, yung negative 1, ililipat natin sa kabilang side. We are going to transpose it to the right side of the equation. So, take note, pag nag-transpose tayo, magpapalit kayo ng sign. So, we are just going to copy down x squared minus 8x. So, since itra-transpose natin si negative 1 dito, magiging positive 1 na siya. Okay? Then, after that, we are going to get 1/2 of the value of b, then square it. Bakit natin kailangan gawin yon? Ay upang maging perfect square trinomial itong side na to ng equation natin. So, therefore, 1/2 of negative 8 is 4. Negative 4 square is positive 16. So, we are going to add positive 16 to both sides of our equation. So, since perfect square trinomial na to, pwede na natin siyang gawing square of a binomial. So, we are going to have x minus 4 squared. Okay, then we simplify this. 1 plus 16 is 17. Okay? So, take note, para maging square of a binomial, yung perfect square trinomial natin, you just get the square root of x squared. So, that will be our first term. Then, we have 1/2 of the value of b for us to have our second term. So, 1/2 of negative b is negative 4. Okay? Then, after that, we are going to take the square root of both sides of our equation. So, kukunin natin square root ng magkabilang side. So, take note, huwag niyong kalimutang isulat yung double sign sa right side. Okay? So, therefore, cancelled na to. So, you have x minus 4 equal to positive and negative square root of 17. Okay? Then, solving for x, transpose natin to si negative 4. So, sa kabila, so from negative, it will now become positive 4. So, bring down lang natin, copy down lang natin yung nasa right. Okay? So, ibig sabihin, ito na yung roots natin. We have x is equal to 4 plus and minus the square root of 17. Okay? So, para ma-determine natin kung meron ba tayong extraneous root or both of the roots that we have solved are real solutions, we are going to check. So, take note na pag mag-check tayo, we are going to use the original equation. So, ang original equation natin is x squared minus 8x minus 1 is equal to 0. So, if x of 1 is 4 plus the square root of 17, papalitan natin lahat ng x's. We're going to substitute them by 4 plus the square root of 17. So, is it equal to 0? So, simplify natin. We get the square of 4 plus the square root of 17. So, to do that, square the first term. So, we have 16. Then, multiply the first and second term by 2. So, 2 times 4 is 8 times the square root of 17. So, you have positive 8 square root of 17. Then, square the last term. So, that is square root of 17 square is 17. Then, next one, we're going to distribute negative 8 to 4 plus the square root of 17. So, therefore, negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. Negative 8 times positive square root of 17 is negative 8 square root of 17 minus 1. Bring down 1 actually. So, is it equal to 0? Okay, so combine similar terms. We have 16 plus 17. So you have 33 minus 32 is 1 minus 1. So therefore we have 0. So hindi na natin kailangang isulat. Then positive 8 squared of 17 minus 8 squared of 17 is again 0. So therefore 0 is equal to 0. So check. Meaning our first root, the first value of x, which is 4 plus the square root of 17, is a real solution. Okay? So, let us now have the second value of x that we have solved. So, katulad ng ginawa natin kanina, we are going to use the original equation pag mag-check. We always use the original equation in checking. So, square 4 minus the square root of 17. So, therefore, we have 16 minus 8 square root of 17 plus 17. Then, simplify natin yan. Negative 8 times 4 is negative 32. Negative 8 times negative square root of 17 is positive 8 square root of 17 minus 1. So, is it equal to 0? So, simplify. 16 plus 17, 33 minus 32 is 1 minus 1, 0. Negative 8 square root of 17 plus 8 square root of 17 is also 0. So, therefore, 0 is equal to 0. Yes, so check. Okay, so that means we have two real roots. So, therefore, we have two real roots or two real solutions. We have 4 plus the square root of 17 and 4 minus the square root of 17. Okay? Okay, let us try to have this quadratic equation. We have 4y squared minus 8y plus 20. So, as our first step, we need to separate those with variables and those that do not have a variable. So, i-isolate natin si 20, lilipat natin sa kabila, itra-transpose natin. So, pag nag-transpose, you change the sign. So, from positive 20, it becomes negative 20. Tapos, itong dalawang to, since they have variables, we are just going to copy them. We're going to copy down. Okay? Next, since ang value ng a natin is 4, it is not equal to 1, kailangan nating i-divide all the terms such that your a will be equal to 1. So, what number are we going to divide? Definitely, we are going to divide all the terms by 4. Para maging 1 yung value ng a natin. Okay, so 4y squared divided by 4 is already y squared. So, ang value ng a na natin is already 1. Okay, next, negative 8y divided by 4 is negative 2y. Well, sa right side, you have negative 20 divided by 5 is negative 20 divided by 4 is negative 5. Sorry. Okay, so next, since it is our a is already 1, we can now make this expression a perfect square trinomial. So, we get 1/2 of negative b, then square it. So, 1/2 of negative 2 is negative 1. Square negative 1 is positive 1. So, we are going to add 1 to both sides of the equation. Okay, so next, we are going to turn this perfect square trinomial as a square of a binomial, while the right side is simplify lang natin. So, therefore, y squared minus 2y plus 1, in binomial form, we have y minus 1 squared. Okay, square root of y squared is y, negative 2 divided by 2, or negative 2 times 1/2. So, you have negative 1 square. So, that is equal to negative 4 plus 1 is negative 4. Okay? Next, we are going to take the square root of both sides of our equation. So we are going to take the square root of both sides. So we have y minus 1. Cancelled kasi ito. Okay? Well, here you have plus and minus the square root of negative 4. Now, since our radical is negative, it means that we do not have any real root. Okay? Big sabihin, imaginary yung root natin. So, therefore, we do not have any real roots. Okay, we do not have any real roots. So, take note, pag yung radicand natin is a negative number, we do not have any real roots or real solution. Okay?
Okay. So, note that if the leading coefficient is not 1, you must divide both sides of the equation by this coefficient before completing the square. For instance, to complete the square for 3x squared minus 4x minus 5 is equal to 0, first divide each term by the leading coefficient 3. Thus, x squared minus 4 thirds x minus 5 thirds is equal to 0. To check your understanding, do the following activity. Solve the following by completing the squares. While doing the activity, you may pause for this video, then proceed after to check your answers. I hope you're done. So if you're done, you must determine the roots of these equations by completing the square. For number 1, the roots you should have solved are x is equal to 4 minus the square root of 17 and x is equal to 4 plus the square root of 17. For number 2 equation, x is equal to 1 minus the square root of 3 and x is equal to 1 plus the square root of 3. For number 3, you have x is equal to negative 1/2 and x is equal to 2. For number 4, you have x is equal to negative 5/4 and x is equal to 3 over 2. So how was your score? Did you hit the perfect mark? If so, well done. But if not, keep practicing. For a copy of your handouts and others, please do visit our webpage. Happy learning! Thank you and God bless.